Oh hey, I didn't see you there. How's it going? I'm RobRabon, and this is going to be a really long video about the history of my 2011 Ford Mustang GT. It's kind of a long history. It's a unique story too, I think. I don't know, maybe I'm being very egotistical about this. If you watch this, please keep in mind that I really am a humble person, I swear, but I might brag once or twice during this video. So, anyway, let's get to it. And I want to remain hydrated. Anywho, first of all, there's the car, if you haven't seen it, and that's probably the reason that you're following me. I think all my followers is just because of that car. I don't think anybody cares about the others. So I bought this car in January of 2011. It was my gift to myself for graduating my apprenticeship program. I am a union electrician here in Baltimore, Maryland, out of Local 24. That's how I make my money. I bought this car used, actually. At the time, I couldn't find any Mustang GTs that were black with a manual transmission. I didn't really want a special order any. So this one was sitting on a lot, had 4,000 miles on it, I believe. And it had saddle interior. It was a GT Premium, which I really didn't care about. And the saddle interior, I really didn't like, believe it or not. It was almost a deterrent. I almost didn't buy the car because of the saddle interior. But it grew on me, and when girls would poke their head in when I was going through drive-through windows and look at the interior and say how nice it was, I realized that maybe it was a good interior. Not saying that I did it to get girls or anything, but it couldn't hurt. I first heard about the new 5-liter motor when I saw it on the cover of Motor Trend. They were talking about the 2011 Mustang. I bought a copy of that magazine, read all the specs, read how much horsepower it would make. I always thought that the car looked amazing. When the 2010s came out, I thought that it was just such a good looking car, and with the new motor and 412 horsepower, it seemed like a really good route to go. Before this car, I had a Dodge Neon SRT4, which was really fun, but it wasn't me. I like turbo motors, I really do, but front wheel drive, it would spin in second gear stock. It was a fun car, but I really wanted a V8. At the time, I was working very, very hard, actually down in Washington, DC, and saved up a bit of money for a down payment, and I signed a loan that was way too long with a really crappy interest rate just to be able to get this car. At the time, I really didn't care, and looking back on it, it was still the right decision, even with the crappy APR and with spending a lot of money down on it. The car stayed stock for, I guess, a couple months. Around the time of my birthday, I wound up buying an exhaust system off of eBay. Wound up buying lowering springs. Actually bought a set of RTR wheels too, which I thought just looked amazing on the car. They just fit the car so well. The fitment was nice. Style was great. It was more Euro looking with the mesh, and it was unlike all the other Mustang styled wheels at the time. Everything was the torque thrust style and just FR 500 style, and I was never a fan of that. That Mustang look, it was dated, everything was chrome, and when I saw matte black mesh wheels on a Mustang, it just made sense. Then I started looking at some of the other stuff that RTR was putting out, and just overall, I started wishing I would have just bought an RTR because those things looked so good. So after the wheels and the suspension, I wound up doing a cold air intake and a Bama tune from AmericanMuscle.com. Just get a little more horsepower, and it seemed to make not a big difference, but pretty decent difference. Around that same time, I also did 373s and an off-road X-Pipe, and that seemed to make a pretty good difference too, especially with the noise. It made a really nice noise. So it stayed that way for a while. Just kind of enjoyed the car. I was actually dailying it for a while, driving to DC when I wasn't able to carpool with anybody. And it stayed that way until about the time that it got keyed. I was talking to a girl who, at the time I didn't realize it, that she had a stalker ex-boyfriend who seemed to be pretty aggressive and didn't like her talking to anybody else. So it seemed like every time that I hung out with her, something happened to the car. First it had like some ice cream smeared on it, then it got keyed, then it got keyed again, and between the keyings I had 2 insurance estimates done. I had to pay 2 deductibles. My deductibles were a lot of money because I had never really had any kind of insurance claim, so yeah, that sucked. It was a lot of money. I've always appreciated photography and videography, and I used to be really heavy into music, played in a bunch of bands, and I started looking at, I guess, hot rodding as a creative expression. The car was resprayed black, there was haze in the clear coat, there was a couple drips. They cracked one of my rear interior panels, like the armrest for I think the driver's side in the back, that was cracked. Just like little things. That was Nick's Auto Body on Route 40. They are no longer in business, I guess, and I don't think it was Nick. I guess it was one of the guys that worked for him. That guy was just like a shitty bodywork guy. So Around that time, my friend Bob, he had a Mark 6 GTI, and he had some Volkswagen friends. I actually went and shot his friend Johnny's car. It was one of the first times I saw a modern car on air suspension. I've seen a bunch of bagged cars when I was younger. There was a bagged Riviera that was down the street from my grandmother's house when I was young. It was matte black, aired out, nice wheels. I remember that car and just drooling over it when I would ride by it on my BMX bikes. Once I realized that you could put air suspension on a modern car, that started making me think more about air suspension. My friend Bob eventually put air suspension on his car, and we would go out and meet for Buffalo Wild Wings or go to CR Wings in Bel Air, and he'd pull up next to me and just air out. And even though I thought I was low on my H&R Super Sport coil springs, I was nowhere near as low as him. So I went to H2O of 2012, and I went to Airlift's booth, and there was a video of a Mustang actually going around a track with air suspension, and it got me thinking that maybe I should do that to a Mustang, because I've never seen a bagged Mustang before, especially a Coyote. I did a little bit of Googling, and I found out that there was really none. There was a Tijen edition Mustang that they did that went to SEMA of 2011 or 2012. That actually had air suspension on it, but it wasn't privately owned, so I don't count that one. I did a bit of searching on some forums and found some air suspension deals that were decent, a little bit more money than what I wanted to spend. At the time, I really didn't care because I was hospitalized a little bit prior to that, and I had a blood infection and I thought I was gonna die, sort of, maybe. It was like a staph infection kind of thing. So once I got out of the hospital, I decided just to do whatever I thought would make me happy. I got the air kit, and I wanted to try to be the first personally owned bagged 5.0, and I might have been the first. There was Omar, he was around that same time. I think Kyle was later that summer, but as far as I know, when I bagged mine, there was nobody else. Like it kind of went semi-viral. It was on like Air Society and a bunch of other little Instagram pages, a bunch of Facebook pages. And I finished that on a weekend, and around that same time, I was looking at Plastidip. I don't remember if it was Reddit or my friend Bobby sent it to me, but there was a video of Fonzie from DipYourCar.com spraying an Audi in his driveway. I think that's the first time I saw Plastidip actually being sprayed on a car, and it seemed to make sense to do that because my paint, I just didn't like it, and I really wanted something custom. I also really liked the matte look. It was more of the hot rod thing that I was going for. Like I said, that Riviera that I saw when I was young, I always liked that look, just that matte black look. So I looked at a bunch of color samples from different like reds and blues and black. I really wanted to do black, I really wanted to do red. I wound up settling on blue, but the blue was kind of bright. Thought everybody would just think it's grabber blue. So I wound up like tinting it just a little bit, putting a little bit of black in it, and it made a tone color. And a lot of people would ask about the color, and they loved it, and I thought it was decent, but I didn't think it would get the reaction it got. It kind of went viral. It went viral. Okay, I'm trying to be modest. I mean, Instagram's just an app, but it was on Facebook everywhere. Between the bags and the color, like it just went everywhere. I went to shrink all the cars in Philadelphia, and everybody took pictures of it and seemed to love it. It was just neat. It was more of a reaction than I thought. Especially being that I had haters before the car was even actually bagged. Like a friend would tell one of their friends, and then they would say, oh, so-and-so said that that's the stupidest shit ever. But it was just nonsense, just stupid hatred that they would hate on something that wasn't even done yet. Something that they never even saw, so how could they know that it was good or not? I don't know, but whatever. In my experience, anybody that's negative is usually the kind of person that wants attention, and they're not getting it through their own means. They're not getting it through their own creativity. They want the attention, and the only way they can get it is to hate on somebody else so they can get attention through either the person they're hating on or somebody else that's commenting. Haters are just the most pointless thing that I could imagine. I really don't get it. I can't imagine having enough time and energy that I could just sit on the internet and just hate on people's shit all day. It doesn't make sense to me, but whatever, to each their own. I have hobbies like cars and photography. If your hobby is just sitting on the internet making negative comments, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. So with the blue, I enjoyed it all summer. I went to Carlisle, and it was a lot of attention, almost too much attention. I was in Airlift's booth because of my friend Jeremy Hart, who I love, and he's actually kind of like my brother now. Love that guy, he's a saint. If you know Jeremy Hart, you know what I'm talking about. So at Airlift's booth, the car was actually getting too much attention, and I just walked around with a couple friends of mine. I came back to the booth eventually at the end of the day, and my friend Jeremy, that was the first time I actually met Jeremy, He said that I missed it, and dude, it was awesome. I didn't know what he was talking about, but apparently Vaughn Gittin Jr. was walking around the show and he really liked my car, which I thought was awesome. It was nice to hear that he liked it. That was because I thought that guy was awesome. I saw him on Fantasy Factory and I knew that he was the owner of RTR, so it was really neat that he appreciated something that I did, just some boy from Baltimore. I went up talking to Vaughn and he said that he loved the car. I took some pictures in front of the RTR booth. I went up getting another RTR wheel because I curved one. Got the front splitter, the rear spoiler, and the deck lid panel all that weekend, and that really changed the look of the car too. When it aired out, it was on the ground, which was really neat to just have the lip of a Mustang on the ground. So from there, I just kind of went to shows with lots of my car friends, made new car friends, took pictures of stuff, took it around a racetrack at Summit Point, won a trophy here and there, which was awesome, and got a lot of attention, which I wasn't used to. I'm a very modest and very quiet guy. Getting all that attention was a little weird, especially because I had social anxiety issues, I guess. I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. Later that summer, I went to AmericanMuscle.com's car show, and I actually won Vaughn Gittin Jr.'s trophy, like his Celebrity Choice Award. I remember standing there at the end of the show, taking pictures of stuff, like just hearing names being called out. And when he was describing the car, I thought somebody replicated my car. I had no idea that I was the one that he was talking about. I kind of wish I had video of that because it was a very neat moment. That was like one of the highlights of the whole car. Like, yeah, I had all these people that hated on it, but this one guy who's like the king of Mustangs, he appreciated what I did. That was nice. So a little bit after I won that Celebrity Choice Award, my friend Glenn had a 2011 Mustang also. It might have been 2012, I can't remember, but he had bought a Paxton Supercharger from JPC. He had gotten in an accident, and it was a pretty bad accident. He rolled 10 times or something crazy. The car got away from him. I'm not really sure what happened. Luckily, he was okay, and the Supercharger was actually okay too, so I went up buying his Supercharger from him. I installed that. Rev Auto made pretty decent numbers with it. They made 610 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque. Being that Supercharger and my stock motor made 600 horsepower, that was pretty nice. Some of the great things about Plastidip is that you can change the color of your car pretty easily, pretty quick, and pretty cheap. So around that time, different companies were releasing different colors and pearls and pigments. I found a couple that I liked. I wanted to do a red originally, so I found a red that I liked. It was this Merlot color. It was a little bit too pink for me. I guess it was within 2 weeks, somebody copied the same color as me, and they would brag about it on different pages, acting like they came up with it, but really all they did was take my choices. They like literally posted the blue and the red, and they just kind of did it. At the time, it actually bothered me a lot because I don't know. Not sure why it bothered me. I almost think because other people got bothered by it, it bothered me. In hindsight, I like helping people, so imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. It was a little annoying to keep getting tagged and stuff, but whatever. And the color was a little bit too pink, so it was time to change it anyway. With all the companies coming out with different colors, it was almost like weekly you would see something new. I did find a smaller company. That company had a couple chameleon pigments. It was hard to see what they actually looked like, and I haven't really seen anything like that in Plastidip, so I wound up doing that. And the chameleon kind of went viral again. There was pictures of that everywhere. And AmericanMuscle.com wound up doing a horsepower shootout thing, and they invited me up, so I did that. And with the chameleon being on the car and with the Supercharger, it was a really fun time, and that video turned out pretty awesome. I met some good friends from that video, and that was another good memory, a really good highlight. That video's on YouTube somewhere. It didn't make as much horsepower as I was thinking. There was some kind of issue. I don't know if it was like traction control. I really don't know what the hell it was. I think I made like 560 something, and they were doing dyno pulls in the 4th gear, which does make your horsepower numbers a little bit less, I guess. From there, the color was a big hit. I thought it was gonna be hard to kind of top that. I went back to black for a little bit. I did a new color for Mustang Week, which I didn't really like. It didn't turn out as good as I wanted. It was a white pigment, so it kind of got cloudy on the door jambs. I only kept that color for a couple weeks. It was neat, but like I said, it didn't turn out as smooth as I wanted. A little bit after that, I wound up doing my friend Trevor's Focus ST in GC47 Chameleon. And everybody was doing Chameleons, it seemed, but because they looked awesome, especially in person. Like, the color flips are just amazing. I wound up doing the same color on my Mustang, and that was for pretty much American Muscle's 2014 show. It was just for that show. And I wound up winning another Vaughn Gittin Jr. Celebrity Choice Award. It was unbelievable that I won that award twice There was a lot of awesome cars there. He said that there was a bunch of other cars that he was gonna pick, but he just really loved mine with the Supercharger and everything. And the guy's just way nice to me. It started making me think that maybe like I had something wrong with me. Like maybe he thought I had a mental disorder, or like I had some sort of disease that I didn't know about, because he was just being so nice to me. So around that time, the 2015 Mustang started getting released, and I read about the independent rear suspension, and I really liked the looks of the cars. I photoshopped one on bags. I really wanted one, and I actually posted the car for sale briefly because I wanted a 2015 pretty bad. And my friend Ben took me for a ride in his, and I really wanted one after that. Went up going to H2O that October, and I had this idea for a while, and I had photoshopped it to do a Harlequin because, like I said, Plastidip's easy, it's pretty quick. I had some colors laying around that were pretty Harlequin-esque. When I got to Ocean City, and as soon as I went across the bridge, even before then, like on the ride down, somebody had actually texted me saying, "Was that you in a Harlequin Mustang?" Like, it just, I knew that I was on to something else. Like I said, I'm humble, but the amount of attention that the Harlequin got in Ocean City during Volkswagen weekend was just crazy. It was also a little brutal. A lot of Volkswagen people thought that I was making fun of them, I guess. I like Harlequins. I thought that that was a really awesome thing that Volkswagen did. I guess Americans didn't get it. In Europe, it was a big hit. Stopping at every red light and having people yell at you and call you faggot, like that was kind of rough. And really, I wasn't doing it to make fun of Volkswagens. I've had 3 Volkswagens. After the Harlequin, I did a couple little random colors here and there. I did like a brown type of maroon color. It was just a bunch of stuff that was left over that I sprayed on the car just because I was bored, pretty much. That was on there for a couple months. Around that time, I started trying to make my own fender flares out of foam and do the whole fiberglass mold thing. And around that time, I lost my daily drivers, so I had to take the molds off of the Mustang. I never got very far with the whole carving out the foam thing. And I started dailying the Mustang again. After that, I did another gray just to get a consistent color on the car. And I thought gray would look pretty cool on it. It was like a bluish gray. It was on the car literally a weekend, and around that time, I had contacted somebody about my fender flare idea not working out, and they actually brought me fender flares. The fender flares are an RTR prototype. They needed a little bit of finishing. They needed to be painted. They turned out pretty awesome. My paint guy did kind of a crappy job on them, but just because the quality of the prototypes were so nice, they wound up turning out decent. The paint and body guy had them way too long, and I was trying to go to Cruise Week. I wound up finishing up the fender flares right before Cruise Week. I went down on a Saturday morning after working on the car all night just to get those fender flares on and to go to one show and cruise around and get a front plate ticket from some cop. I really liked how the fender flares looked on the car, and I had another idea that I wanted to try for a while, and that was the shark mouth. I had photoshopped the shark mouth idea before I even had the fender flares. It was another like idea that I just keep going with. That idea pretty much came from Rusty Slamington, which is the BMW that I guess is owned by Mike from Stance Works, which was one of my favorite Stance builds ever. And I guess it had burned down years and years ago, but just seeing that car in different features and seeing pictures of it, it was like a rat rod, it was stancy, just the whole look of the car. It was one of my favorites. So I ended up stealing the shark idea from that, basically, which is stolen from Bombers, which is also where hot rodders and stuff stole it. It's been on other cars, so I didn't originate the shark mouth idea by any means. I thought it was the first modern Mustang to have it on there, but I really don't even know if that's true or not. The shark mouth was in vinyl underneath a clear Plastidip over top of the black color that's already on the car, or was already on the car. Now it's like multicolored. The vinyl was done by my friend Brandon. He vectored it out, printed it, and it was actually laid by me. It was photoshopped by me too. The shark mouth was one of my favorite looks. The original one. The current one's pretty cool too. The original one has a lot of sentimental value to me because that's the one where we went on a road trip. So in 2015, I did a road trip with my friend Jeremy and my friend Leo across the whole country and went to SEMA. The car wasn't in SEMA, but just to be there and see everything that you always see in magazines and on TV and on Speed Vision when that was a thing. I guess it's Velocity now. See all that in person was just amazing. And just that trip in general was something that I never thought that I would actually do. That first road trip was probably one of my most fond memories of the car. It just went so well. There was no issues. Got to go and see so many different things. I've never been off of the East Coast So after the shark mouth era, I had this idea to do like a splatter art kind of thing. I saw a lot of hippies do that at there's like Artscape. There was a bunch of art cars that I saw at Artscape a couple years ago. And a couple of them had like paint dripped on it. And there was also a car that was done by Mr. Brainwash, which was, I guess he was friends with Banksy. He used to, I guess, do a bunch of video for street artists, and then he became an artist. He did a Maserati where he just threw paint at it. And I thought it'd be cool if there was a car that, you know, was actually functional, because the Maserati was just in like an art exhibit. They never actually drove that car. Thought it'd be pretty cool to do that in Plastidip, and I remember seeing it. It was one of those ideas on the back burner. So after the shark mouth, I thought it was time to do that, and I did that. That whole color scheme got more attention than I think almost every one of them. I remember going to Taco Bell after the car was finished, and the lady actually called people from the back so they could come look at the car. So I knew that I was probably onto something. I didn't know if it was going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I thought there was going to be a bunch of memes about crashing into paint stores and Home Depots, and there was a couple. I figured I would beat people to the punch and make my own. I didn't make the whole splatter art because of all the stuff about Mustangs crashing. It just happened to be around that same time that became a meme. Everybody was talking about Mustangs crashing at Cars and Coffee, which they do, but that's a different subject for a different time. I have some theories on to why that happens. So maybe that'll be another future video. I don't know. We'll see. I went to a lot of shows with it that year. It was actually on the local news in Myrtle Beach for their Mustang Week coverage that year, and that was pretty cool to see my car like on a news channel. So after that, I kind of got burnt out on the Mustang and just Mustang life, Mustang people. I hate to say that. I needed a break, and I bought a 240Z, and I thought it'd be cool like if the Coyote would fit in a 240Z, because I've never seen that swap done before. There's pretty much been every motor you could imagine inside of a 240Z. Well, S30 chassis in general, 240, 260, and 280Zs. There's never been a Coyote in that car, so I took some measurements. It looked like it would fit, pulled the motor out of my car, and it fit in there. And that was pretty much where we were gonna go with that Coyote motor, and then I was eventually gonna put another motor in my 2011, or maybe just sell it as a roller. I was just really burnt out on Mustangs at that point. So at that time, the whole plan and all of my resources and all of my money were going to go to the 240Z. But then I got distracted by the Fox body and work stuff, and I was trying to start my own company. And it was a very weird time. I had an aunt who was basically like my second mother. She wound up passing away because it was like a midlife crisis kind of thing. I really don't know. I wound up putting the 2011 back together, which was a whole process on its own. There's a whole video series on that, and I was really excited again about my car. I really missed it. I just kind of woke up one day and realized that I missed the car, and the opportunity to do another road trip came up, so I needed a car to do the road trip, and the 2011 basically got put together just for that road trip. Before that road trip, kind of picked out a color. The color didn't work out. I added some more pigments to the color, and that's the color that it is right now. And because I was doing another road trip, I figured it needed another shark mouth, and I had a bunch of last minute ideas to do new wheels and to put the air suspension back on, which I had sold when I ripped the car apart the first time. I'd sold off the Paxton too. Then I had to rebuy the parts that I sold at more money, but it was things that I thought would really contribute to the trip. The air suspension really helped out when we were in random parts of the country and needed to air up to get over a curb or some crappy road or a dip, just anywhere. Speed bumps. Speed bumps are everywhere across the country. So that road trip went pretty amazing considering the car was just put back together a couple months before we left. There was a flat tire, and I did break a splitter, but I mean overall it just went well. That trip was a blast. And I still have a bunch of videos from that. The pictures are great, but the video that I still need to edit and process, that video is it's just hard to put it all into some sort of project. It's really hard, but it's awesome. It was such a good trip. If you ever have the time and the money, I definitely recommend going on some sort of road trip across the country, especially if you have a cool car like a Mustang, like a nice American muscle car, like the Great American Road Trip and a Great American Muscle Car. That's pretty much the most American thing you can do. So that whole road trip thing, that was a couple months ago, and I've just been daily in the car and enjoying it and doing burnouts here and there and just kind of driving around, not doing anything big, working on other people's cars occasionally. Bought a truck project, bought a Skyline. This is still the main car. This is still my wife. So it's about that time This color's been awesome, but it's about time that it changes again. So this will be the last video with this color. I really like this one. It's probably my favorite, one of my favorites. And I'm gonna change a couple other things, and I'm gonna take it to Mustang Week this year. Like it should. It should have been there last year, but it didn't happen. And I'll see you guys at Mustang Week with the car, and it's gonna look different. I might post a couple update videos between now and Mustang Week with a couple small little things, but you'll see. You'll see overall. It's gonna be interesting. And thanks for watching. On Mustang Day 2018, which is April 17th, I was featured, well, the car, not me. My hands were in it, but I was featured in the Mustang Day video by Ford Motor Company, actually, which was also, it might be the highlight of the whole car. It was during the splatter art era. There's a quick little clip of me at the end of the video where I'm painting the, I don't think I still have the brush, but I was painting the pony, and it was talking about making it yours. And that's one of my favorite things about this whole car, and Mustangs in general, is that they're just so customizable. You can make it yours. You can make a Mustang a drift car, you can make it a drag car, you can make it a road course car, an autocross car, you can make it into a low rider if you want, a stance car. Mustangs can be whatever you want. That's my favorite part about Mustangs. And I've met a lot of friends because of this car. I've met a lot of friends that I consider family because of this car. And I'm really glad that I got this car. It doesn't owe me anything. It's gone above and beyond as far as my expectations of what this car is and what it could be. So, thank you, Mustang. I love you. And I'm gonna make you even cooler, I think. And continue to make you cool. No, let's get to work.